TW, this episode contains mention of violence against women, assault, and hate crimes.
When they were young, most girls were taught that the pinnacle of their life's purpose would be marriage. As girls, they learned that their dreams would come true if they could only find the man of their dreams. And why would they believe that? In fairy tales, men were prince on a valiant quest to find a woman that they would love and protect forever. Women, on the other hand, were conditioned to lock themselves away in towers or encase themselves in glass to ensure they were ready for the moment that a man would come along and be the hero of their story. Whatever nightmares they suffered today, as long as they remained good and steadfast and waited patiently on the return of their husbands, that would be the end of all suffering and their lives would finally begin. So they straightened their hair, waxed their legs, and painted their faces to pursue levels of femininity that promise salvation from loneliness. And for a while, it felt exciting. Every failed date or heartbreak brought them closer to the one. And even more than that, it brought them closer to other women. Sisterhood forged through the shared experience of trying to survive patriarchy. They imagined themselves as Carrie, Miranda, Samantha, and Charlotte, sipping Bellinis and scanning the New York Times for wedding announcements as they swapped dating stories. Every relationship was another chapter and a step closer to the true prize of living happily ever after. But as the months stretched into years, and the years stretched into creases under their eyes, wrinkles in their forehead, and their tits succumbing to gravity, so too did their youthful dreams of relationships stretch into reality. For some, marriage brought the painful reality that their prince really wasn't so charming after all. For others, the disappointment of kissing frog after frog had left them doubting that princes existed at all. Worse still, in the midst of all the disappointment, a great war erupted. The bonds of sisterhood shifted. Those who found a prince often envied those without the burden of a castle. So they ridiculed their sisters for failing the great task, and those that remained prince-free either taunted princesses for their obligations or suggested that their abuse was their fault. But all of them felt a wound that lingered. But in the end, the same question was being repeated. When will someone love me? And when will I be enough?
I used to wear Stockholm, now I prefer alone. I'd rather do this on my own than be disrespected. It feels so
Hi, I'm KadyRoxz, and I'll be your internet cult leader for the day. This is the Difficult Conversations with KadyRoxz podcast, where we discuss nuanced social, philosophical, and personal growth topics that the world typically paints as black and white. If you too believe that more than one thing can be true at once, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment below. And for ad-free extended content or versions of the show, consider supporting the Difficult Conversations with KadyRoxz Patreon. As an ADHD creator, I tend to make content about whatever I just happen to be thinking about that day. Good luck. But sometimes I do check trends and I do check popular requests amongst my audience. And recently I noticed that my most watched video on YouTube is an episode of the original inception of the show, The Feminine Hysteria, about the Princess Diana phenomenon, a term I coined in a conversation on why women seem to be receiving growing resentments from men. And given its popularity and the uptick in the search phrase, why do men hate women? It felt like a good time to revisit this. So much has happened since that episode was originally published, from the devastating yet inspirational Madame Gisele Pelicot's court case in France surrounding her mass sexual assault facilitated by her husband, who she was with for 50 years, to the young woman in my hometown, Ellie Young, who was executed in broad daylight at a breast cancer walk by her ex-boyfriend. It feels like women have become targets of violence at a greater frequency than ever before. But it's important to note, as disheartening as everything seems right now, women around the globe are making incredible strides in the protection of their rights, their futures, and the safety of all people. This year alone, 3 more U.S. states, Washington State, Virginia, and New Hampshire, enacted legislation banning child marriage, bringing the total to 13. That's kind of crazy, but progress. New Zealand passed a bill guaranteeing paid leave for miscarriages and stillbirths. The UK and Namibian government banned their tampon tax, which is basically a special tax that increases the prices of period supplies. And Estonia and Samoa each respectively elected their first female prime ministers. Though I'm not directly related to what we're gathered here to talk about today, I include these tidbits because it's important to remember that even in the face of great evil, great oppression, and great resistance, women prevail. The patriarchy can strike back all they want. For every woman they cut down, two more will stand in her place. And if they want to fight, we'll fight and we'll do it in heels. And some of us will do it with a baby on our hips. We will ensure that they inherit the problems of conditioning women to be tougher, smarter, and braver than the coddled men that they called us to serve. And in the words of Margaret Thatcher, a woman is like a tea bag. You never really know what she's made of until she's in hot water. So believe me when I say we are not going back. We'll do it scared if we have to. So as these instances of retaliatory femicide keep surfacing, we'll keep saying their names. And though some argue that it's not that violence against women is increasing, women are simply speaking out more, I just feel like it's more than that. Today's violence against women feels like a deliberate backlash, a response to the progress women have made over the recent decades and the social media popularization of media movements like 4B, Me Too, and the Decenter Men movement. The violence isn't just about control, it's retaliation. As an African-American woman, I find it very akin to the public beatings and lynchings of Black slaves and the grandiose hate crimes received by Black activists. And they use violence as a form of public spectacle to garner fear and compliance. The assailant that took the life of Tamhara Collazo at her cubicle desk in Louisville, Texas, after she communicated a disinterest in dating him and started avoiding him when he began staring at her on her lunch break, was reported to have said by Fox, the victim caused him pain and he wanted her to feel pain, so he intentionally planned to harm her at work with everyone there. Rest in power, Tamhara. He harmed her to make a statement. And that is what that we're in, and that's what makes it a little different from what women have historically faced. Today's sponsor is, please follow this podcast on Apple Music and Spotify. Please, please, please. This is the Difficult Conversations with KadyRoxz podcast on Spotify and Apple. Please follow. Please, if you really like us, join us on Patreon. When we first discussed this, I called it the Princess Diana phenomenon, get it hot like Papa John, because Diana's story represented what many women experience every day. In her, we saw the woman who embodied idea femininity. She was beautiful, compassionate, and devoted. She seemed to be everything that society would say a man should want. And yet, we all know her story to be anything but a fairy tale. For many men, the dream girl is not about love. She's a symbol, a representation of social approval. She represents everything he's told he needs, just as Diana represented everything the monarchy wanted. In this view, the dream girl isn't about personal compatibility, but about status. She's a marker of success. And when men obtain her and realize she doesn't change their lives, or worse, that she represents what they can't have, resentment sets in. When we ask, why do some men seem to hate women? We must first recognize resentment as a symptom of a societal pressures that are put on men to attain women as status symbols, trophies that confirm their masculinity. This acknowledgement is not an excuse of their behavior. We know that every human on earth faces societal pressures and therefore must find a productive form of coping. This is just the answer to the question why. Why and should are different questions with totally different answers. As modern American society and likely the world continues to struggle under the weight of the expensive living, people that attribute their identity and self-worth to material gains are left in a particular difficult place. Within that general subset of people are men. Whether they actively seek to believe in, or whether they actively believe in traditional gender roles or not, most men have been socialized to build self-esteem by accomplishing materialistic goals. As the introduction of this video suggests, women are no strangers to this. But unlike women, men typically are not encouraged to be introspective about their negative emotions. They aren't typically taught to process their feelings in productive ways like women might, like journaling or meditation or just simple girl talk. In short, the Boys Don't Cry movement fucked everybody. Without the cultivation of emotional intelligence or a way to express emotions to male peers who might have similar challenges, men tend to hyperfocus on those material outcomes as the sole answer to their problems. In a video about the rise and fall of Andrew Tate, essay YouTuber D'Angelo Wallace covered the growing crisis in men, especially those under the age of 25, and finding purpose and direction in their lives.
See, he also has the War Room, which kind of just looks like a fraternity, except it cost $5,450 to join, so there's that. But if that's not enough, then there's also War Plans. War Plans is apparently a platform where you can pay $17 to have someone on Tate's team give you advice for 10 minutes.
Many of the members of Tate's self-help university were men whose insecurities Tate preyed upon for profit.
Designed to take advantage of young men at their very lowest points.
I've been dealing with a lot of self-doubt.
I have had no one to talk to.
I feel like I can't get advice from anywhere else.
I was lacking guidance.
I just wanted some guidance that my father is not giving me.
Everything Tate is doing lures in guys who are lonely or lost or feel like they have nobody to talk to. And by the way, if some of them looked really young to you, that's because they are.
I've just turned 20 2 days ago.
I turn 18 in a year because I'm 17.
I just turned 17 today.
They could sense that there was something more to life than the ideas of manhood that society had given them, but without the tools to uncover what was missing, they fell prey to a thought leader or anybody that offered some form of validation.
Andrew Tate is preying upon insecurity above all else. I think it's also pretty important to point out that this wave of vitriol towards women is being propped up on the backs of an insecurity epidemic among men. And like, what are you supposed to feel if not insecure when you have men like Andrew Tate calling you a geek or a loser?
I believe the recent rise in young men attending church services is a result of this as well. And it also probably doesn't hurt that Abrahamic religions tend to go, hey, are you a dude? You're perfect. You're basically God if you're a dude. So that definitely probably is a big bonus point for men. With a lack of direction, a search for purpose, and a lack of emotional processing tools becoming more common in men, it's probably not a stretch of the imagination to think that this could result in jealousy and resentment when encountering a subset of people, e.g. women, that seem to have more life clarity.
I would love to, but I have to do this thing today.
Blow it off.
I can't. Dean, this is about Harvard.
Oh, well, excuse me. It's about Harvard. I forgot.
Or at least less problems in this system from the outside looking in. But jealousy, of course, is a very normal human experience. It can serve as a beacon that shows us what we want to do with our life when we don't have a lot of clarity, who we'd like to become, what traits we'd like to have. But just like jealousy attracts us to ideas, it also attracts us to people. In a study by a student at McKendree University, they surveyed 58 men and 71 women, college-level students ranging in ages 18 to 51, to find the relationship between self-esteem, jealousy, and romantic relationships. Researchers found self-esteem is an important factor of jealousy, and that as self-esteem decreases, jealousy increases, and as jealousy decreases, loyalty increases. That is to say, sometimes you think you want a person, but you really just want to be them, which again does not have to be a negative thing. You should admire your romantic partner. I personally feel the most motivated in love when I believe there's a lot I can learn in life or in my career from a partner. Attraction to someone, to who someone is, and a desire to be like them is a good thing until it breeds a nasty little something that we call resentment. And I might go as far to say that the men who frequently participate in negging that maybe romantic attraction was never actually at play. Maybe it was always a jealous attraction. Because again, the problem begins when a man believes that he is entitled to whatever it is he's envying in his partner, and he fails to see that he could just obtain it himself, or he doesn't know how. Doesn't feel like he has the tools. And so rather than addressing the insecurity, he projects it onto her, resenting her for what he wants for himself. This is why it's important for women. Come here. It's important for women to work through the cognitive dissonance of a man that wants you romantically or sexually, but still kind of hates your freaking guts, sis. Wait, like, don't they say that, like, if somebody is maintaining intense eye contact with you, they either want to sleep with you or, like, unalive you? Like, it's kind of a similar energy anyway. So yeah, he thinks you're hot and he would really like to be with you, but he hates your it makes him so mad you exist. He hates you. Sorry, he does. He hates you. Not to mention how often men have themselves have told women He's just saying that to get into your pants, warning women that just because a man is doing something nice, just because he's being good to you, just because he's like the ideal man, that doesn't mean he really sees you as a person. You're just a psychological conquest. They say this in their own words, and then they want to back it up with evolutionary psychology. This is what we used to do, was hunt. Dude, it's like 2024. Like, when was the last time you went out hunting for like an elephant to feed your family, or a deer? And what are you talking about? Like, that it doesn't even remotely sound like a trait that we need in today's world. Like, this is purely about power and a structure that often measures worth by your ability to dominate another person. Outdated, though. It's outdated. Thus enters the concept of the dream girl. She's the glue that makes a man's life make sense under this belief system. That is why men that hyper focus on their own pain and experiences to the point of convincing themselves that they are the only victims under the system. That's why they resent being confronted with the reality that women have it way worse. Like, the idea that the trophy might resent being objectified like really pisses them off. Like, they need you to like opt into the game for the game to make sense. But more than anything, they really hate the idea that the members of this one group that they believe that they're entitled to have domination over might have something that they don't have.
You stole my fucking job!
No, I fucking didn't.
You said it was me!
It was just a rumor.
How do you know?
Because Chappel told me. He didn't want to promote you. He wanted to fire you because you're the one who's
Whoa, hold on. Like, I'm supposed to be better than you. Why would you have something I don't have? And like, I mean, this is what we were talking about in that episode that nobody listened to because it was boring and technical. But this is what we were talking about when it comes to like the intersexual issues. Why men use their pain to like go against women. It's like everybody does it. Like, I just saw it on Threads. This woman came to the platform and said, "You guys tweet about homeless people, quotation marks, as if we're not on the internet with you. First off, I prefer unhoused, and I don't see that as my total identity." She just said, "Hey, I prefer to be called unhoused, and that's not who I am. That's not my identity. I'm not my economic status." And when I tell you, there were hundreds of people mad, going off, telling her, "Get off the internet and get a job. Get off the internet and try to get your..." Like, it pissed people off that somebody that they believe that they're supposed to have domination, power over, status over, might not be miserable, and then she never says she's not miserable. She just said, "I don't reduce myself to this." She's actively changing her life, because people who sit on their fat asses and complain about their lives and do nothing because they rather just feel good by thinking about changes, doing nothing. It just pissed them off that someone that they believe is like lesser than them may not be miserable, might have inspiration, might have stamina. So like, everybody does it. But in this subset, we are specifically talking about men. So men who believe that women are lower on the food chain, it pisses them off that you might have some shit they don't have. It's pretty layered and a little confusing. So think about it like this. Men seek purpose. They're told that they can buy happiness. They buy the things and continue to feel empty. Or they can't buy the things and they get mad that they can't buy the things. Both groups develop resentment and then hyper focus on the one thing in life that's supposed to be easy and free. Women are not easy or free, and that makes them mad. And even if they are able to access women, eventually the excitement of a new relationship wears off, especially when she undoubtedly begins to have needs. And with no tools to process or understand why they feel so empty, why monetary things or relationship does not feel the whole inside, what some people call a God-filled hole, or a God-sized hole, which basically just means that thing in you that desperately needs purpose outside of anything you might accomplish. Like, your accomplishments mean nothing without some kind of context around it that gives it purpose. And without any tools to process that, they begin to externalize, or AKA blame other people. They go, "Hey, I was told I would be happy if I got a girlfriend, but I ain't happy. It's your fault. You must be a bad girlfriend." Or they go, "Oh, I was told that I'd be happy if I could get a girlfriend, but you won't be my girlfriend. Nobody would be my girlfriend. So now I'm unhappy." And it's your fault. Or even if they are able to maintain it, they begin to neg and lose interest because, again, it doesn't solve the ultimate issue. But they keep the relationship going anyway because it's still a form of access to physical and emotional labor. And it still gives them status over men who don't have relationships with women. And, it's a whole fallacy of something is better than nothing. And they don't know why they feel so empty. Which really brings us full circle to why I believe that women really identified with Princess Di. Like, yes, they admired her for her kindness, her free spirit, her charity, and her grace, but they also identified with her, saw themselves in her story of a woman that was groomed to be the perfect partner of a king just for it not to be enough. And if the Netflix show The Crown, their interpretation of her relationship with Dottie Fayed has any accuracy, then, his courtship of Princess Diana reflects those same ideas. Like, his father was encouraging him to pursue Diana for very similar reasons. I think there's a scene where he says in exact words that after a lifetime of letting him down, if he can marry Princess Diana, he will finally have his love and respect. Even though Dottie is engaged to someone else, his father is constantly goading him to pursue Princess Diana because Princess Di is the symbol that will legitimize their family. If that interpretation is true, Dottie may have had genuine feelings for Princess Diana, but in the end, his intentions were no different than the royal families. In the end, everyone that valued Princess Diana for what she represented failed to protect her. The world treated her as something to be consumed, and she was. Which is why when the conversations surrounding Chappel Roan speaking out against parasocial fan behavior were being had, my take was, you should care because if it can happen to her, it can happen to you. If it can happen to the rich and famous, it can happen to you. If it can happen to a woman who is conventionally attractive or the standard of beauty and no one cares about her autonomy and safety and comfort, it can happen to you. You cannot advocate for why it's okay for another human to receive distress, especially if you share a marginalization with them without consenting to be next. They did not burn witches, my love. They burned women. Witch was a catch-all term for woman I don't like. If you consent to the burning of another based on a technicality, eventually the definition will evolve to catch up to you and bring the flames to your door. You don't have to like or agree with a woman to agree that all people deserve to feel safe no matter what their job is, including accountants. While we've certainly had some fun here today, while this might paint a dark picture, I do see some hope. For every man who clings to harmful beliefs about manhood, there's another that's learning that he can redefine his life for himself on his own terms. We have countless examples of men who are working towards a healthier version of self-respect, men who are willing to support other men in their quest to deconstruct harmful ideas of manhood that pit them against other men, but especially against women. Though I'm rather new to their platform, I've really enjoyed conversations being facilitated by the Man Enough podcast, but they're not the only ones out there trying to set better examples for men. I also feel very inspired by some of the comments that I see left by men under my social media posts. And so that is to say, whereas these conversations are important for women to make sure that they don't feel alone or personally responsible for the negative impacts on their personal life that a societal system creates, that women don't feel isolated or like they're failures when they try to educate an individual and that individual defaults to harmful behavior, and that women are educated in making decisions about the types of relationships they want to engage in. These conversations are also important to bring some awareness to men about the experience of women. Some of them care, some of them want to do better for themselves, for the women around them, and for the world at large. And to that point, actually, the idea behind the KadyRoxz Discord was to give like-minded women, non-binary, and queer identifying individuals a place to gather. But I would also like to champion men to create spaces like this amongst themselves. If you see a dude in the comment section that's like, yeah, dude, I want to do some stuff different. You don't have to wait for somebody to come to you to start a new change. They don't even need to be local. You can just gather with men. You see, like, hey, you think like I do. Let's get in a group chat. Let's start facilitating conversations. Let's meet every Thursday. Let's talk about some shit we did in our lives or we saw in the media and something. It starts by saying, hey, do you want to get together? Do you want to hang out with me? We seem similar. We have similar ideas about the world. We should communicate. We should start a thing. We should gather as a minority so that one day we may be the majority. That's how it starts, guys. That's all you gotta do. Say, hey, dude, come be a dude with me. Tomorrow's another day. Let's keep going. Tomorrow's another day. Because Newton's third law says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and that change starts with us. It's cheesy, but it's true, guys. I remind myself all the time that if the impossibly bad is possible, it means that the impossibly good is possible too. And I give thanks for that reminder that things can improve in ways that I've never imagined. Desperate times may arise in the face of unfathomable villains, but they also give birth to unimaginable heroes. And it starts with us being willing to stand up for ourselves and others. And with that, good night, good faith, and good love. KadyRoxz signing off.
I prefer alone. I'd rather do this on my own than be disrespected and feel so neglected. I'm ready to go and right this wrong.